Welcome, everyone, to CSM Mastermind. I'm Andrew Marks, co-founder of Success Hacker and our success coaching training program. We're back today for our monthly live webcast talking about connecting the dots between customer desired outcomes and their overall business objectives. This free learning event is brought to you by Success Coaching, the global leader in customer success professional development training, now with more than 23,000 students globally on our skills development platform. Our training programs are available in a variety of formats, from self-paced online learning to virtual instructor-led boot camps. We've got a few classes starting soon, with open seats remaining. The Difficult Customer Conversations workshop led by Anita Toth, customer retention expert, will teach you the skills you need to confidently have difficult conversations with all of your customers, something anyone in a customer-facing role needs to be good at. The next workshop starts on May 2nd. Also, the next cohort for data-driven decision-making, led by Ed Powers, the man with a big brain on his desk. He does. He's got a big brain on his desk, so ask him about that. Ed will teach you basic statistical principles and how to use data correctly to inform better business decisions. His 10-week course, which is a combination of self-paced online learning and weekly 1-hour coaching sessions, launches June 2nd. Ashley has dropped links to both courses in our chat so you can find out more. You can also find out more about all of our online learning and instructor-led programs and workshops at successcoaching.co. Okay, enough of the sales pitch. The CSM Mastermind series is a live and unscripted discussion where we dig into a single topic relevant to customer success. Regardless of the company that you work for, the scope of your role, or the sizes of the customers that you deal with, we aim to pick topics that are going to be practical and useful to you. The schedule for upcoming events can also be found at successcoaching.co. Click on the events tab at the top of the page to find out more about what's coming up. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is recorded and we'll be posting a replay along with a transcript on our website early next week. We will be taking questions later on during the webinar, so please don't be shy and use that Q&A button found at the bottom of your screen to either ask or upvote a question that's already there. We're also broadcasting on LinkedIn Live and have Tracy monitoring that feed. So if you have questions and you're watching on LinkedIn, please post them and they'll be relayed to us. Also, we love getting feedback during the event, but we ask that you keep any sort of commentary to the chat window and just questions to Q&A. There's a lot of thought leadership out there, along with a lot of theories about how to deliver customer success. In this series, we focus on practical, real-world advice, best practices, techniques, and shared experiences from those practicing customer success on a daily basis. And to do that, we invite 3 panelists to join me for a roundtable discussion. These are people who are great at their craft, and we ask them to share their experiences and their perspectives. So without further ado, I'd like our panelists to introduce themselves to y'all, talk a bit about who they are and what they do, and let's get started, as usual, in alphabetical order with Dave.
All right. Hey, thank you for having me, Andrew. Excited to be here. I'm Dave Blake. I'm the founder and CEO of Client Success. Hopefully you know us. We're a customer success platform that for customer success managers and teams. My background has been in the customer success space for most of my career. Before founding this company, I was at a company called Omniture back in the day, which was a leading web analytics company where I was a strategic customer success manager, like many of you, on the front lines, taking care of some of the largest customers at the company and some of the biggest brands of the world. We went hypergrowth and then were acquired and went IPO and then were acquired by Adobe. And I came over and ran the global customer success team for that part of the business at Adobe. So been everything from frontline to executive. So bring experience about scaling customer success as well. And now founder of a solution that provides, that helps customer success managers. So grateful to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. And we've been long time colleagues, and I've enjoyed knowing you, Dave, and being part of your CS 100. event every year. We have a great time at that event. It's got a lot of fun, a lot of value, a lot of great insights there. And definitely appreciate that. Appreciate you spending time with us today. Kenny, you're up.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Kenny Austin. I'm Chief Customer Officer for Parasoft. Parasoft is, we're a leader in the solution or the software test automation space. The easiest way to think about it is we help our customers build better software. I came over into the role really, my background is more on the professional services side. So I started with KPMG Marwick, IBM Global Services, and then transitioned a number of years in leadership in Micro Focus in the enterprise professional services space before the last 4 or 5 years, really transitioning more to a customer success model. Really excited about the opportunity we have at Parasoft and the things we're doing with regards to really driving customer value. Those things weren't always possible in the world of professional services with margin requirements and profitability challenges. So I'm excited about being able to do more here at Parasoft. And thanks for the invite today.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. Yeah, you and I came from the same world, and I 100% agree with you. You know, I always held the opinion that we got to deliver value. You know, and even before it was a subscription, we got to make sure that what we're doing and what the customer's paying for is going to really pay off for them. And that sometimes flew in the face of margin, utilization, you know?
Yes.
So it has been, it's been nice. I enjoyed the transition way back I made that transition way back in 2008. But it was, and there were some challenges, going through that, but it's like the light side of the force, right?
Yes, the handcuffs are removed a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Kenny. And finally, last but not least, somebody I love seeing and talking to, one of my favorite people, Maranda.
Yeah, it was funny. Before I go into my intro, I was just remembering CS100. I had got my hands on about 400 books, and I couldn't figure out how to get rid of them. I popped a boatload of them in the back of my car. Met Andrew about 2 hours from my house, and then like 2 hours from his. I think it was maybe an hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
In a gas station parking lot, put our cars next to each other, popped the backs, loaded boxes, and then
people are thinking we're doing a drug deal or something.
Hugged each other, like hugs, and then back in our cars and took off. It was the funniest thing ever because people are looking at us like, what are they doing?
And, that led to the absolute worst drive I've ever taken with Todd out to CS100 with all those books. Thank God we rented a car because we flew home because it was such a miserable drive.
I can't imagine. That is a long drive in a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Todd. Okay,
I didn't want to say that. I'm not going to say that. So hello, everyone. I am Maranda Dziekonski. I am the SVP of Customer Success at Our Work. Our Work is pretty much an HR platform that empowers hourly workers. So I have been doing customer-facing operations now for over 20 years. And I started out in a very big organization that had 40 to 50 billion of revenue a year, managing a portfolio myself, and then worked my way up into training and leadership and doing auditing and all of this stuff. I then came to Silicon Valley, where I've now been part of 8 startups. I've had 4 exits, a couple of failed startups, and now just getting underway here, my 3rd month at Our Work, building out customer success, implementations, and tech support. And right now I'm also running people ops, biz ops, helping with finance, all of that fun stuff, which Andrew can tell you is not an uncommon thing for me. I'm usually running behind the scenes, a lot of different functions and organizations. So I am your operations friend. I pride myself into knowing what is going on within an organization and be able to help us all get better together. And that is a little bit about me. And I'm very excited about this topic. It's something that's near and dear to my heart.
Awesome. Thanks, Maranda. Yeah, you always seem to get sucked into that. I got to tell you, the other moment that I remember from the CS 100 was the picture.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was in 2019. We got scolded. So Sundance had a thing where you couldn't take pictures in this bar. We were taking selfies and we got scolded. To be clear, I have a son that just turned 22, and this individual that scolded all of us probably was right around that age. And I was like, our faces were priceless.
And somebody got a picture of us getting scolded.
Yes.
And we're like, and all of our faces are like, huh? Yeah, it was a great picture. Anyway.
Great memories.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. I appreciate all of your time today. Now let's get to the topic at hand. Every organization has business objectives that they're trying to achieve. And those business objectives, which can change yearly or more often, drive some of the decision-making that goes into working with third-party vendors. Right? Companies don't spend money just spend money. They spend money because they feel they need to. Right? They've identified a problem or an opportunity, and they're seeking out a vendor to help them address that problem or capitalize on that opportunity. And the value your customer is trying to achieve through using your product or service is likely tied to a business objective that drove the decision to invest in your solution. But that may not always be apparent. And while they may have established with you a set of desired outcomes or objectives that they're working towards, it's incredibly powerful when you connect the dots between the desired outcomes they're seeking by using your solution and how those outcomes play a role in helping them achieve those overarching business objectives. So just to get things going, what are post-sales teams missing out on, or vendors in general missing out on, when they don't connect those dots between desired outcomes and business objectives?
I can take that, Andrew. At least to get it started, I think in most cases we miss the opportunity collectively to be a trusted advisor. And Parasoft actually sells to a very technical audience, and we've got kind of exhibit A, B, C, and D of the discussions we have with those end users are very technical in nature. And so a lot of the feedback we get is we're trying to solve a very technical problem, and that is the remit of the individual who we're working with. But it's our job as customer success to try to take that up a notch, right? To understand, yes, I understand you do testing and you're trying to, cover a certain percentage of your code with that, but how does that translate into a corporate objective? And it may not be corporate. I mean, we might have to take steps to get there. We might have to say the business or the departmental objective, the organizational objective, but to try to translate that into more of something that is an ROI kind of measurement, as opposed to, I just want to solve this technical use case. But that is the challenge. It's not always easy. And in most cases, the audience we're dealing with can answer the technical requirement, but we have to work and dig and really try to confirm and validate that strategic business objective.
Maybe I'll jump in here as well.
Sorry, Dave. I was just going to kind of expand on that. And sometimes customer success managers can have a problem, or anybody can have a problem actually getting what the customer's desired outcome is. And now we're saying, well, what you really want to do is you want to connect those, once you figure those out, to business objectives, because there's a reason why they've made an investment in you.
Yeah, for me, I'll share an example. I've got 5 kids. I don't know how many people have 5 kids out there like that, but it's like jumping in the car for spring break, but not having a destination where you're going. It's just, for us, that would be chaos. But if I have a clear destination and I can communicate that with the kids and bring them along on the journey, hey, we're going here, and here's what we're going to see along the way. And it goes much more smoothly. And I think that's the way it is with business objectives, goals, desired outcomes, whatever you want to call it. Understanding that from the very beginning and mutually agreeing upon those the best you can. Now, we'll talk a lot about that. That's sometimes hard, but at least having your next best milestone or defined milestone clear, and jointly going after that, having that visibility, that vision, and going after that together just makes the journey with your partner and your customers that much better.
I love your analogy about the kids in the car, the destination. And if you think about it, it's like, here are where our pit stops are going to be, and then also planning for emergency stops along the way. It works so well. And when we're talking about this topic right here, it really reminds me of conversations I had with you, Dave, and JD years ago when I was building out the customer success team at Swiftly, which was a B2B enterprise product. We had contract values that were as low as tens of thousands a year up to like 1.2 million a year. So it was really important that we were heavily focused on outcomes, that we were providing ROI, that we were viewed as strategic partners and not just a vendor. And we were thinking about ways where we could collect goals, surface problem statements, document that, have the plans in a system and a tool that would help drive the CSM activities and also the partnership motion. It is so crucial, more so now than it even was 3 years ago, that folks, especially in the B2B enterprise world, are thinking like this, because every company out there is going to be heavily scrutinizing their bottom line, figuring out, where do I cut budget? Is this tool mission critical? Is this service necessary? And if you are not providing valuable outcomes, ROI, and not just providing it, but telling them and proving it and showing them and making your partner on the other side look like a rock star, you could be on the chopping block and not even know it. So it's critical.
Well, and this is why you need to take that next step and go beyond just the desired outcomes and connect them very directly to business objectives. The reason why you brought us in was because your CEO said X, Y, and Z, and we're contributing to Y, right? We're contributing to that, right? It makes that conversation about the value go beyond some, oh, your team's more efficient. Okay, well, what does that mean? Right? No, we're actually there's this thing that your CEO said, or is in your annual report, or one of your executives mentioned in a blog post, said that this objective for this year is really important to us, and you can draw a direct line to that from what you're offering, what these desired outcomes are. But what happens when a customer can't see the desired outcomes beyond the tactical, right? Whose responsibility is it to inform those lower in the hierarchy how this all connects? I mean, what kind of strategies would you all approach that type of situation with?
Maybe I'll start with one that says, I may offend somebody here or in the global customer success community, but I do not like the term desired outcomes. Mainly because
you're offending me.
Negative churn first. Negative churn.
Negative churn, right?
That disappeared.
Desired outcomes, because that's not how I talk in business. Yeah. I don't talk about like, hey, what's your desired outcomes? You talk in language that is familiar with your customer. That's the first thing I would say. So using things like, what are your goals? What are your KPIs? What are your key business objectives? Those are the common language of our customer, not desired outcomes. I personally don't ask that, or I don't hear that in boardrooms and in conference or whatever, in conversations with that. So I think the first thing is try to understand their language and understand them. Seek first to understand and then be understood. So it's a lot. I think the first tip that I would give, and then I'll pass it to our colleagues, is to dig in and just spend time understanding them and their business and learn how to speak their language, not your language. So that's the first.
I would just add, I think that's the continuity. We had to sell something, right, at some point to get the opportunity to make it sticky and to have them adopt and expand, right? So it starts there. At some point, we understood exactly why the customer was making the purchase, the business reason, and we build on that. That is an absolute, required handoff. That's the baton that we start with. Now, things do change, not just annually, but quarterly. And we get that all the time, right? So we have to be able to pivot. We have to be able to revisit those things consistently, because, the onboarding process where we try to confirm those reasons is still just a snapshot in time, and a month later it could pivot again. So we need to continuously revisit. And, one of the techniques that we try to do is to not just talk about it, but actually if we can embed it somewhere in our solution, right, in the software, in a dashboard, so it kind of displays itself. All right. So it's an ongoing topic for sure.
Yeah. Interesting to what, back to Dave's point, like pretty much speak like a human. I train my teams on what I call the value cycle. Now I know the customer's not talking about value, but I want my team thinking in terms of us providing value. And one of the parts of the value cycle is surfacing problem statements. So as a customer success manager, you should be able to, one, know the industry that you're serving and understand what are the common problems, what are the not so common problems, and what are the problems that if we could solve would really move the needle. The thing is with desired outcomes, customers sometimes don't know what they need. I hate to say that, but it's true. Sometimes they just don't. It is your responsibility to get in with a common problem statement and then move through the maturity of that relationship to a more uncommon problem statement to get that customer to that valued partner relationship status.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. You need to act like a good consultant and guide them and ask them questions, talk to them, actively listen, all of those key skills that we want to see in customer success managers. And you're not, very rarely are you going to walk in during the kickoff call and define you might have some good idea of what direction they should go in with desired outcomes. But you're definitely not going to, in most cases, walk in and have that connection between the desired outcome and the business objective, unless, of course, that was culled out of them from the sales process. And big qualifier, the sales team actually passed that information along to the post-sales team, because that's a huge assumption. I think that a lot of people make, that they're actually going to get that information. But it's difficult to get this information in reality, right? It can be. It's as you put it, Dave, on the pre-call, it's part art and it's part science.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think it is. The art of asking questions is a critical aspect of this. And sometimes it's just saying, "Hey, what are your goals and objectives?" Other times it's asking creative questions like, some people don't like this, but what keeps you up at night? Like, what's the biggest thing you're trying to accomplish this quarter that stresses you out? What are you comped on? Sometimes if you're close enough to them, you can understand what they're comped on, and that can be a good way. If I'm comped on some factor and maybe some certain KPIs or objectives, that's an easy way to do that, to get those objectives out of there. So there's various ways to do it, but I think the key is just trying to be very inquisitive in a positive way, where the customer feels it's a natural and a normal way to be inquisitive.
One of my favorite questions. Now, I worked with government, public transit. We would do executive business reviews once to twice a year. One of my favorite questions is not related to our partnership. What are some of the big initiatives that you have coming up? And you would get gold from that, because they don't sometimes see you as a partner in a certain area, but you could be a partner in that area. And that is a good way to surface a way to become stickier or to continue to be able to be impactful there. That's another question I just wanted to throw out there that I've seen bear a lot of fruit.
Yeah, it's an art of discovery. I think, trying to bring to bear, because you can ask those questions, and sometimes those discussions become very, I don't want to say contentious, but just there's dead air, right? So people don't know how to answer those questions. And so you have to start to lead them, would you be interested in understanding what other customers in your space are doing? This is what we're doing with our other customers, sharing those and trying to get the dialogue going in that regard.
Yeah, a couple of our more popular workshops, and people, I think companies are starting to realize this, and teams are starting to realize this. A couple more popular workshops. One of them is a discovery question inventory, actually building an inventory of some of the most common discovery questions that and desired outcomes that based on the desired outcomes that customers have, whether you speak that language or not. And actually creating an inventory that everybody on the team can be looking at and share and use to prepare to have these conversations. Because the best, it is a lot of it's a lot of questioning, it's a lot of active listening, but there's a finite set of things that a customer is going to do with your product, and there's a limited set of sectors that you are going to focus on. So you can realistically come up with a pretty good comprehensive inventory and to at least start with. And the key is getting started and asking the right questions. Customers love vendors that ask questions. Mm-hmm. And it's how we develop relationships. I'll pitch this book again, and I pitch it all the time. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is a great book on negotiation, but you know what? It's a great book on making connections with people. Yeah. And he covers some of the key skills in doing that. And one of the big things is asking questions.
Yeah, our Chief Customer Officer, Christy Feltruso, who many on this call will know and follow, she does a great job where she's identified kind of the 7 core value props of why people would buy software like us. Why would people buy customer success software? There's 7. It's data consolidation, customer health. So she's identified those. And that's a good starting point for this process to say, okay, here's 7 that we commonly find are key reasons or value objectives that people buy our software. Which of the 3 are most important to you? So that can be a standard way to your point, Andrew, of like standardize on some to start and then go to the deeper discovery from there.
I think that answers a question that Rachel asked in the Q&A about how to efficiently surface common industry problems when you're serving multiple industries. Like I had this as well when I worked at HelloSign. We were an electronic signature company. We had a bazillion different industries that we served, which is different than when I was at Swiftly, where we served public transit. Very different companies with a different kind of motion. But to what Dave just said, how I would do that, instead of going super deep in the industry, go deep in the problem statements that your organization solves for and align there. It can be very daunting if you start trying to segment an industry for a company like a HelloSign, because you'll look and you will have infinite possibilities and you will get overwhelmed and not be able to move forward. So be paralyzed by analyzing the industries instead of actually moving forward with your problem statements.
Okay, caught in analysis paralysis.
Yes.
Just a reminder, we do have we will be starting some Q&A here in a few minutes. So use that Q&A button, Q&A functionality. Ask any questions or upvote any questions that you see there. One thing that we touched on, I'm not sure if it was Dave or it was Kenny, this issue around capture, even if you do capture that information, they don't keep referring to it throughout the customer journey. They might capture it at onboarding, but they don't keep referring to it. And I think it was Kenny, you mentioned that things change.
Yeah, right? Things change. And so it becomes part of the ongoing engagement. So it's the more you can revisit this as part of your natural, cadence, whether it's monthly or quarterly, it just becomes a natural conversation to say, we're going to look at these. And the first question you ask, has anything changed? I mean, we typically ask that question during onboarding because guess what? Between purchase and onboarding, has anything changed? So always knowing the latest, top objectives is key for us.
Let's see. What else? We talked about some strategies for anticipating and addressing potential challenges in achieving desired outcomes. So creating inventories of questions, doing some prep work.
One thing that I might,
sorry, what was that, Dave?
One thing that I just might add is, for frontline CSMs is there's the two areas where you've got the macro, the big picture of objectives you're trying to achieve, but just being very good about knowing the next thing I need to achieve for this customer.
Yeah.
You're not kind of wandering. You're just here to help. No, you're there to help achieve something, right? So there may be a bigger goal that's going to take several quarters to achieve, but when I leave every call, I should have clarity into what is the action items that I'm doing to achieve these micro milestones or objectives. And so I think keeping those both in mind is really important. I think the best CSMs always know the next best step that they're trying to help accomplish.
That's a great point. I was just going to say that some of the we're swimming upstream a little bit, with the nature of I'm good, so we've onboarded, customer understands how to use the software, but we'd like to keep engaged. We'd want to keep helping and promoting them to be successful. But there's a tendency to say, well, especially with very technical people, they don't want help to begin with. I can learn this stuff myself. I'm fine. Asking for help is a sign of weakness. So, let's just have a monthly cadence and just check on these three things. And when you end one call, have the next one scheduled. And if it's a short call, we'll catch up, make sure everything's fine. But you have to lead them through that discussion for sure, because the natural tendency is that, well, I don't need help, I'm fine.
I just want to call out too, for those that are online that have portfolios of hundreds of customers, and you're hearing folks say have a monthly scheduled call.
Yes.
That is likely not possible for you. So what I would highly encourage is you do segmentation and understand what is the minimum contact your customers need in order to be successful, and build on from there. And minimum contact could mean human touch, could mean in-app messaging, walkthroughs, digital campaigns, community. It could mean webinars like this. It could mean various things, but you have to understand the different segments within your portfolio. And I would encourage it to start at the leader level. So partner with your leadership to think through segmentation. What's the minimum, and build from there. White glove is not as possible these days in a world where efficiencies reign king. So you have to figure out who actually needs that white glove. Don't just design it as a white glove experience. And on the other note, as somebody who is a customer of many products, I'm busy, right? I don't want a monthly check-in with every CSM I have. I just want my stuff to work, and I want to be able to be successful with the tools and solve the problems, solve the problems that I need to, which is the reason why I purchased the tool, right? So just remember that too, when you're designing out your program, put that customer hat on and say, do they really, if they're spending $500 a month with you, do they really want to meet with you every month?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
No, this is we encounter this all the time. We have for our platform, we have a fairly complex tech stack, and we got a customer success manager for everybody. And luckily most of them have taken the messaging in the right way, which is we'll call you when we need you.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes that's just going to be the case. We'll call you when we need you, and they check in, but they don't overdo it. The worst thing that you can do is hound your customers because you're checking off a box and what your boss expected you to do.
Exactly.
Right. That's not healthy, and they can read right through that. And then, at the end of the day, the better we are at connecting these desired outcomes, and actually, what you said, Dave, the connect desired outcomes to business objectives is great and all, but at the end of the day, we also, do need to be ensuring that the tactical stuff that's going on, that the customer's moving through the customer journey. That goes to go without saying. That's stuff that's being done in parallel, right? Well, we want to keep an eye on how the objectives that they're achieving with our product are connecting to these, and how they're having an impact on these overarching business objectives. But we also need to be moving the customer through that. But, understanding the customer's desired outcomes, I'm going to keep laying that on you, Dave, they definitely contribute to long-term relationships, because we can make that connection between, here's what we're doing for you. Here are the business objectives as a company that you're trying to achieve. We're helping you achieve them. That makes you stickier. It also really plays an important role in helping your internal key stakeholders to communicate internally, hey, here's the value that this vendor has been providing us. How about we get to some questions?
Let's do that.
All right. All right, our first question looks like, and I read off questions based off of the ones that have the most upvotes. So if you see a question on this list and you want it answered quicker, this would be the time for you to upvote it. Ellie, thank you for the question, Ellie. Ellie asks, how do you introduce the conversation of goals when you join an organization where customer success was not a priority previously, and there were issues with implementation in the past? The relationship has gone through more than 3 different people, and it's hard to build trust. All righty.
We've never seen that before.
Yeah. I've never seen that. No, never. Everything's always smooth. Who wants to jump in on that one?
So I guess my thing is who are you introducing the idea of conversation, or who are you introducing the idea of goals to? Because it sounds like maybe there needs to be a reset even at the organization level.
I believe Ellie is talking about at the organization level, but Ellie, why don't you go ahead and clarify that in chat, if you would?
Yeah. So I view this as,
yes,
almost
at the organizational level, she says.
Yeah. Here's my not helpful response. If you are having to convince folks at the organization level that having goals with your customers, especially, and I want to clarify, at B2B enterprise, higher dollar value accounts, is the right thing to do, because this is going to help drive business, make customers stickier, make sure they're successful in your product, help create references, expansion opportunities. I'm giving you right now the roadmap. If you have to convince somebody of that at the leadership level or within the organization, you're in the wrong organization.
Yeah, you've got bigger problems, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that this would be one of the best ways to drive stability in the customer base. If you have customers who've gone through 3 different CSMs and or individuals, and I would also.
Oh, okay. She's saying I meant to say within my customer's organization, not within the company I am on.
Answer.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that, Ellie. Okay.
I would stick with my response is that if you want to bring stability to that customer relationship, stabilize it on clear goals and objectives, and they'll probably really appreciate it. Hopefully, that this is one of the challenges is turnover, and there's a natural turnover in all organizations where individuals have to go through multiple CSMs. But again, if done right, then the goals will be the common thread that each new CSM can come in, realign, and make sure like Kenny said, like, are these still your goals? I don't need to, and they can confirm it, and then you're picking it up and driving them forward. So
Right.
I would use the goals as that common driving force across whoever is in the organization, no matter how frequently. And then the last thing I would say is sometimes you got to hold the customer accountable. You have to be a little bit of tough love to the customer and just say, hey, we really, have those tough discussions with the customer in that regard to have them focused on clear objectives.
I will add just one small thing now that I got my sassiness out for the day. Reset with your customer what the purpose of your role is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is incredibly important. Still, a lot of our customers have no idea what customer success is. And if you haven't been operating historically in that partnership role or that strategic advisor role, they're going to view you as somebody they go to for reactive issues. So you have to really flip that mindset before you introduce the idea of we're going to partner and I want to understand what your goals are. So really make sure that you are explaining what the purpose of your role is and how you would like to be their strategic partner. And you want to earn that title. And by doing so, one of the things you want to do is partner with them on their goals and what they want to achieve through your service or your product. And yes, Rachel, sassiness.
I think a lot of these answers also play into the question that's been upvoted by Liberty about encouraging people to meet to talk about desired outcomes when they're so busy. At the end of the day, a company has made an investment. Mm-hmm. A key stakeholder has gone to their leadership, to the CFO, and said, we need to spend this money on this solution, on these services, and we expect this kind of return.
So here's the thing, we're assuming that happens. Now, it doesn't always happen. That's also part of the problem. I know it should, but what I am seeing, when I'm uncovering things in companies that I advise or that I work with, is sometimes folks have a budget and they just spend that money on whatever tool sets they need and then possibly move on to another function, another company, and then the CSM is left to try to get in. And I know that's a different issue and a different question, but I just want to call out, I wish the world were as simple as a leader says, once upon a time, I have a problem. I want to purchase a tool. I go to my leadership, get approval. They're expecting ROI. There are a lot of other little nuances there that create difficulty in navigating.
But even in that case, how much better does that person look, whether they're trying to move up in their organization or they're going to somewhere else, when you're able to help them look like the smartest person for bringing your solution in 100%. Because they got a significant return on the investment. Exactly. And the only way to get there is by getting some people involved, especially at the beginning, to figure out, okay, what are we trying to do?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. In theory, that is 100%. That would be amazing if we could all do that.
Yeah, and nothing's absolute, right?
Yeah.
I love what Maranda said. There are, and I think Andrew, you said this as well, that there are some partners that you don't need a call. It's providing intrinsic value, and you don't need a call. And that may be fine. It can be dangerous, but sometimes you just need to be creative. If they don't have time to meet to discuss what their goals are, you can also maybe be creative in different ways to assess, quickly get small snippets of feedback from them, or share data. Like, one of the things I love is the vendors that I don't talk to. There's a few of them that send me a report, like a weekly or monthly report that says, hey, here's how you looked last month compared to our other competitors, or our other customers. Mm-hmm. And it gives me data that it quickly allows me to see, like, am I getting value out of this? I don't need to talk to somebody, but there's creative ways where you as CSMs or companies can assess or communicate value or reaffirm value in different ways through a simple 1-question survey or 2-question survey, or data and analytics, a dashboard or something like that.
Yeah. That goes back to my point about trying, if at all possible to have it, again, our technology allows a dashboard to show KPIs and we can link that. So it becomes the center of visibility of how we're doing, right? So it is, because I appreciate that, Dave. I think if we're in a case where we can't meet with somebody and maybe it's a low touch or tech touch situation, then it becomes more of an electronic, here's what we're doing, here's where we stand. But we're still missing that feedback loop. We don't know if they're receiving it, if they're consuming it, if they're accepting the fact that, yes, we are getting value. So it's always that risk of not having that confirmation.
Any other suggestions we've kind of rolled into Liberty's question here about encouraging people to meet to talk about desired outcomes goals when they're so busy. Just joined a company where there wasn't already an ongoing cadence with CSMs. I've noticed I usually have to dangle a carrot to encourage a meeting with my clients, but that only goes so far with some. Mm-hmm. Touched on a few things. Any other thoughts, ideas, methods that you've used?
I just have one little idea. I haven't personally used it yet, but I saw Cast.app, which is the Dickie Singh.
We use Cast. We use Cast. Yeah.
I loved the interface and the idea that I would get a video that would be like a 2-minute video that talked me through the ROI that I've had or the usage or whatever, and then have actual call to actions that I could click on that would say, okay, I would like to discuss more of this with my CSM or whatever it may be. I think that that's really where the world is moving to, is more of streamlined communications like this. And, I think somebody earlier said, meet the customers where they are. I say that a lot. And that kind of interaction I would prefer that for most of my tools over sitting through a business review. Yeah. I get a quick snapshot. It's got a little avatar. It makes it fun to watch. So anyway.
Yeah. Cast.app is, I'm actually just a full disclosure. I'm on their advisory board, but we're an early customer and we have been using that basically as virtual business reviews.
I'm on their advisory board as well. Yes. I just have not become a customer yet.
Yeah. It's a great product. Really, have gotten really good feedback from our customers that are interacting with it. And it's so, once you get it set up with the right data, it's just, hey, I'm going to drop this on a monthly basis. Just keep you in the loop.
Yeah.
What's going on? Heck of a lot better than those checking in calls.
Right.
Which, I agree with you, Sean. Checking in calls suck and they shouldn't be a thing. Liberty, thanks for the question. Am I pronouncing this right? Davia? Is it Davia or Davia? Hopefully it's Davia. Davia?
Davia. She said the latter.
Davia, the latter. Okay, Davia.
Hey.
Davia, thank you I like to get people's names right. Davia, thank you for the question. Is there a set of questions, resources you use to help your point of contact be able to articulate desired outcomes and how to get them to think about the connection to corporate objectives? Because oftentimes primary contact is very, your product gets the job done, but how do we translate that value to VP, et cetera? Kenny, looks like you want to jump in on this right out of the gate.
Yeah, your product gets the job done it's a data point, right? So it's better than it doesn't, but certainly the ability to translate that into a business value. The product gets the job. What is the job that it gets done? And exploring that further, I think is the key to taking that forward, right? I think it gets into also, if you can get an audience with that VP or have the discussion about what is the business value that comes from this exercise, then, you're going to be in a better position to showcase that value. I think we deal with that a lot, right? It's a very technical audience and, hey, technically we're achieving exactly what we need, but, right. How are you measured? How is your VP measured? How is your group measured? And how do we support those measurements? I think that's the key to get to.
One of the tools I've used, Davia, to do some of what Kenny just spoke of is a maturity matrix slide. and using like the good, better, best as like your headers of your chart that show the outcomes or the KPIs that folks like them have achieved using your product. So for example, good, 90% gross, better, 92, best, 98, so you break it down in a chart that's very visual, and then you pair that with activities that you've seen customers like them do to move from good, better, best. And it makes it really simple, actionable, and opens them up again to move you from that vendor bucket to that partner status and get them to really think about the connections to their own corporate objectives and what would good be, what would better be, and what would best be internally for them.
I like the visualization element of that. I want that executive's going to go, I want that.
Yeah.
Right? I want to, and you're like, okay, let me show you how we're going to get there.
Yeah, awesome. I'll add, I love that as well. We've done a similar thing. We originally called it a 30-point inspection, and now we call it a success audit or whatever. But they're just tools to create opportunities for conversations. And we've had tremendous success. I've always was taught earlier in my career by a great mentor to get to this concept of going high and wide in an organization. And of course, this is a concept that's more for strategic account management or medium to high touch of going high and wide. But you have to give them a reason why they should spend some time with you. And so deliver some value to them ahead of time, and then you'll likely have that conversation. But connecting the dots between the frontline team or key contacts and their value perception versus the executive sponsors and executives' value perception is really important, because sometimes those are not connected. Mm-hmm. So you can have a bunch of people who love your product, but the executive sponsor has to make some tough decisions and has no concept of the value because she or he has never felt the personal connection there, and they may make a decision based on their perception of your product versus what the lower level team's perception.
Right.
I think that happens a lot. I think that's one of the reasons why you want to make that connection, right, between those objectives, those boots on the ground. Here's what I'm doing, those technical things, and here's how the things that I am doing as an individual contributor are having an effect on this business objective that my VP is concerned about and my VP is likely comped on.
Yeah.
I was going to make a joke, but this is why you have every executive sponsor speak on a webinar on behalf of your company and act as a case study or whatever it is, help them shine publicly, and they get this emotional attachment to your organization as well.
But just don't, I think the message here is don't assume that that's happening. You have to take an active role in making sure that's happening. In a customer-facing role, you have to be the person that is connecting the dots. You have to be the person that's highlighting it. You have to be the person that's ensuring that everybody from the boots on the ground to the key, most senior executive stakeholders understands, why this stuff that you're doing is important, because it's not going to happen in a lot of cases if you don't. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have really engaged senior executives that, appreciate, understand, drive that message down to the individual contributors. But in a lot of cases, they don't, because they've got to look at stuff a mile wide and only about an inch deep.
Yeah.
They're thinking much higher level strategy.
Yep.
Agreed.
All right. Just a reminder, we do go until 1:15. So if you can stick around, we're going to continue to answer as many questions as we can with the time we have remaining. Our next question comes from Gabe. Davia, thanks for the question, by the way. Our next question comes from Dave. Dave says, I've led CS teams who supported very complex mission-critical products. One of the common challenges, they say, was getting beyond a customer's objective of implement the software successfully, which is, to be honest, a major milestone? How do you bridge the gap with operational leaders who focus on tactical milestones with the broader business goals and outcomes? I think we've covered that mostly, unless anybody has anything else to add to it.
And if Gabe wants to just add, if he's still here, if you don't feel like we have, just let us know and we'll hop back in and add some more thoughts.
Gabe is still here, so let us know, Gabe, if we've covered enough of this, or if there's anything else just in chat, if there's any other color you want to add.
All good.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Olivia, thank you for joining us. Olivia asks, apart from discovery, what do you recommend to uncover business outcomes when working with a BTL point of contact? BTL. Below the line? Below the line. Okay.
Oh, wow. I just learned something new.
Yeah.
Okay. PLA. Yes.
Business outcomes were the BTL point of contact. One of the questions that I always ask when I'm in that situation is tell me how's your boss measured?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah. That's usually what if they don't have a boss? Everybody's got a boss.
Even the CEO has a boss. It's
yes.
The board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. How can I make you look good with your boss? How can I make you look like the smartest person to embrace our solution?
And that goes back to some of the questions I meant to. How are you comped? What keeps you up at night? What's the business? What is your quarterly goal? Asking a lot of those types of questions can draw that out of them, or seed it with here's some things we commonly see with our customers. Which of the three do you want us to focus, or which one of these do you want to focus on together?
I guarantee you that either desired outcomes or overarching business objectives are tied into somebody's comp plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Desired outcomes are going to be, at that lower level, are going to typically be tied into individual contributors or middle management. Business objectives are going to be tied into senior executives' comp plans in some way. That's what they're there for. You don't just sit there and throw out okay, here's our business objective for the next year and not tie anybody's comp to it.
And if you work with smaller startups, let's say seed, Series A, they're just kind of, getting their feet in the water. The one goal that they will always have is a revenue goal.
Yeah.
So if all else fails, even if they don't have a manager, even if, which everybody does, but if they don't have a direct manager and they're kind of like a lone wolf, not woof, operating, the company will have a revenue goal. So figure out how to tie into that somehow.
Or just think about some of the more common generic business objectives. Yeah. I want to increase revenue. I want to reduce expense. I want to increase customer sat. I want to, throw out a bunch of those things.
Yeah.
Thank you, Olivia. Our next question comes from Jasmine. For my company, we are well planned out on key value areas we provide. We try to capture success plans in our business reviews by stating objectives with specific metrics. How and what kind of questions do you ask, and how can you be more prescriptive for the customers with your product? I think we also covered some of this, right? This notion of showing up with, here's what other customers have done. This is how other customers have gotten value. Here are or even better, here are other customers. Here are some customers within your sector or that are facing a problem similar to you. This is how they used what we had to offer and the kind of value they got out of it.
Yeah, I think the one other thing to add is you're not typically going into that conversation cold, right? You should have an entire relationship, well, albeit pre-sales or whatever it might be, prior to the onboarding, prior to the business reviews. So you do have some of that data to explore and dig into and do more discovery and expand on.
Yeah. Anybody else have something to add for Jasmine? All right. Thank you, Jasmine. Thanks for joining us. Ellie's back up again. Ellie asks, what is the best way to engage sales to really focus on business objectives when qualifying a customer and effectively communicating that to the CSM? Even when processes are put in place, sometimes they don't follow it. How would you better communicate the importance of this step? And it looks like, Kenny, you have some ideas.
Yeah. I chuckle because it's just, I mean, I think you have to be realistic. I think set the bar low, and if that bar is, achieved, then great. But, the bare minimum of why did the customer buy the solution, and realize that at that point, you're trying to explore, you're trying to expand. You may need to take that baton from a very technical sale to how does this roll up? And so part of the job of the CSM, is to then take that product, make it sticky, and drive adoption. And that gets into the business objectives. So at some point, the nature of a new sale, you kind of take it and you run with it. Now it's in the door. We have a customer. We need to take them and take care of them through the journey, right? So that's really where the CSM and the customer success organization needs to pick up. I think it's a tough road to try to really, dramatically change the way that, we may pick up details about customers before they come into the portfolio.
And I just want to say, I don't agree with setting the bar low for anyone in the organization. And I know that we do have to give, a little bit of leeway for the journey, but I think it really starts, with us leaders making sure that the sales team, the CS teams, everyone in the org are tied around the same number and have a common goal. When we're all working in silos, something like this will never happen. So having everyone really tied around not just the top dollar revenue, but also the retention of that revenue really incentivizes the sales team to be bringing in those right customers and making sure that they have real problem statements, that these customers are good fits for the problem statements that we tend to solve. But I wanted to add that.
Yeah, and I want just to clarify, not necessarily setting the bar low. It's the concept of, we all like the ideal customer profile, right? That we know our solution is a good fit, it's a good match. Sometimes those aren't perfectly what we get in terms of customers. So it's now our job to try to shape those edges off and try to give them value, right, for what they purchase. It's just understanding sometimes we're not going to have all that detail.
Yes.
I think it's more about setting your expectations low about what you're going to get out of sales.
No.
Set the expectations high. I mean, my thought was, make sure that the two leaders are on the same page. That's the main thing. A lot of the organization behavior and culture will flow from the leaders. So having a common, common rules of engagement. Yeah. A couple other things, like Josh said, making it a requirement before they close a deal. There's a lot of things that sometimes in deals that they require to be able to close a deal. Make it a requirement. Have fields in whatever CRM that you have that capture standard objectives or specific objectives. And then if that doesn't happen, as a CSM, put book time on the sales rep's calendar to do that before the kickoff call. The one thing that I would recommend real quick is just from CSMs is to make sure that if it's captured, if people have gone through the trouble and helped capture that data, don't go into the kickoff call and ask them to start from scratch. Yes. So go into the kickoff call and says, this is what I understand that were your objectives from the sales process. Again, like Kenny said at the beginning, are these correct or has this changed? Because that does change, or there's different stakeholders sometimes between the buyer and the user. So maybe those are some ideas.
You should validate those understandings, of course. Validate. Don't ask the same questions over. That's just going to piss off the customer.
Yeah.
But Josh spoiled my my recommendation, which is something that I've been using for a long time, and that is create required fields in whatever your CRM is. That
Yes.
they absolutely cannot turn this deal into closed one until they're filled out, and
Genius.
and make as many of them as possible multiple select, multiple choice, true false. Have it. I mean, put some free-form text in there, but minimize the amount of free-form text. You want to reduce the friction of the salesperson taking the time to do this stuff. Make it as easy as possible for them to capture this information.
Yep, agreed.
Avoid free text. Although there are, I couldn't get around it for a couple of things, but there was when I was at Intact and where I'd implemented one of the very early customer success teams, we had 12 questions that were required for the sales team to be able to move that deal to closed one, and 10 of them were multiple select, multiple choice.
It's quicker that way, right?
It's quick. Yeah. It's just you want to do, and they were at the top. So they just sit there and go, oh, this is easy. And then they get to the freeform text like, oh, shit. All right, well, I'll finish it because I've already filled out almost everything else. So awesome. Ellie, thank you. If you could hit done on that, Kenny, we got enough time for a few more. Okay, Rose poses an interesting question. How can we support a customer to meet their goals and or engage with the product when they, one, are not charged for the product, and two, their time to value is delayed after sharing feedback?
I had a free product. Well, the second part, I'm not sure I 100% understand. That's why I paused.
I don't understand the second part
Their
either.
time to value is delayed after sharing feedback. I'm not sure where the correlation between...
Rose is still here. Rose, if you want to clarify in chat what you mean by number two.
Not charged for the product. So I don't know if it's a freemium model or if the model is forever free. So I'll just use HelloSign as an example again. You could sign up for free and get 3 signatures a month. Of course, any company that is giving away anything for free, they're hoping that you will upgrade. You will, fall in love with their product. It's going to solve some great problems for you, and then you'll move up to that next tier. So it's kind of like a try it before you buy it scenario. Mm-hmm. So making sure they are meeting their goals on a free product when they're not paying is very hard. However, not impossible. Again, just think about how you're providing resources for them to be able to engage and understand the value they could get if they adopted all the features. So it's like you're, again, on community webinars, marketing drip campaigns, in-app walkthroughs, all of that kind of stuff. We did a lot of that at my previous organizations and had fantastic churn rates, but it is difficult. So, and I'll read the chat real quickly. And if anybody wants to chime in while I read the chat to get the second part of the question.
The customer shared feedback about the product. However, it's going to take a quarter or two for them to see the updates based on product updates.
I can comment on that. I think, there's a huge value. We all, as software companies, there's always going to be requests, feature requests, enhancement requests. If it only did X, Y, Z, right? And how do you take that feedback and collectively communicate that back out? Number one, that hey, we are indeed listening. We are taking your feedback seriously, and we have an answer for you. And that answer doesn't mean it's in the product tomorrow. It doesn't even mean that we're going to put it in the product. There are certain things that don't make sense, but we're listening, we've evaluated, we're communicating effectively. So there's a lot of value, and we've seen that because a lot of times customers will ask for something, in the very near term, and you realize, guess what? They didn't need it for 6 months, 9 months. So the roadmaps actually align very well. So there's a lot of value in just communicating that.
Interestingly enough, and Dave, I hope you're okay with me sharing a conversation you and I had. I was Dave's customer, and Dave said I would give feedback all the time. Surprise, I'm a very opinionated customer.
No. No.
I know. Dave, one time we had a phone conversation and he let me know, and it's the scariest thing sometimes to say to a customer, that the product, there was no intent for the product to do this thing, that this product is not a one-stop for everything, and it is not the intent for the product to do this thing. I was okay with it. I knew logically, like, yeah, they probably can't get this feature. They probably can't get it to do this, that it was not intended to do this. I was trying to put a, square peg in a round hole. That is the scariest thing, though, for some people to do, is just to let the customer know, thank you for your feedback. We are adding it to a list of things we will continue to review, but it is not in the pipe now, nor may it be at any point in the near future. It is a hard thing, but it is the best thing you can do for a relationship. It creates transparency, respect, and you build those dynamics of you're a human to human, right? You're just both trying to do the best. And here's the honest truth of where we are, instead of making stuff up. I have had vendors do that to me, say, yes, we're going to get that in the pipeline and maybe in the next couple of months. And I never see it. And then I remember too, and I never see it.
You have to be able to say no. You have to be able to have those difficult conversations in this role.
Exactly.
So difficult.
Sorry, Dave, for throwing you out there like that.
That's why we partnered with Anita for the difficult conversations boot camp, right? You have to be able to have difficult conversations.
Sometimes we tend to be people pleasers. Our personality of customer success, sometimes they're people pleaser. We like to satisfy. And so we try to placate and try to say, oh, it may come, but sometimes as Miranda said, just being straight up and honest is all the time.
All the time. Yes.
All the time. If the answer is not now or never, just say it. And usually you'll get a lot of respect from it versus stringing customers along.
Exactly. I think we've pretty much we've run out of time. Rose, thank you for that question. By the way, my daughter's middle name is Rose. Lovely name. Thank you for joining us. So we're at the end of our time for today. I think it was a great conversation, but it's not what I think, it's what all of you think. Please let us know by posting your feedback on LinkedIn and tagging either myself or my guests or Success Coaching. And I want to thank my amazing panelists, my guests, for spending the time with us and for the ideas, thoughts, and best practices that you shared. One final note, great CSMs know that they don't have all the answers, but they know where to get them. That's why we created the CSM Mastermind, to harness the knowledge and experience of the community to help improve everyone. We hope to see you again at our next event on May 17th, when we'll talk about utilizing storytelling for customer success. Until then, make sure to make space for yourself and your mindset every single day, and have a great rest of your day, week, and month, everyone. Until we see you again. Thank you.